Hey there, Quarantine Justine here, also known as Daisy Jukes. This is making me look like a neckbeard and this is hurting my head. Let's stop with that. Of course there's the elephant in the room, the quarantine. That is my motivation for making this video. I have nothing else to do. I hope everyone is doing well. I know that it's kind of hard to stay optimistic in this time, but when this all passes, we will be so appreciative of what our life before this was, assuming that everything doesn't crash to shit. Anyways, let's move onward. I wanted to make a video on abusive and toxic relationships and manipulation for two main reasons. One, for the people on the outside who kind of are seeing little bits and pieces of an abusive relationship and have lost respect for the person. I understand that it's kind of hard to feel, well, it's kind of hard to not be judgmental when all you see is this person hitting this person and that person just avidly defending them or not calling the police or making the police go away. There's a lot more to what you're seeing than what you're seeing, and I want to make this video to help you understand, but also for people who are in abusive relationships, first and foremost, so that they know what's happening to them, and that they can try to find a way out. And unfortunately, the format is mirrored. It's going to be harder to see my cards, but I am using my cards as points. I'll be going by in chapters. I don't know why I chose that format, but que sera, sera, here we are. Anyways, let's talk about how you get into this shit. Chapter 1 is the initial appeal, and let's start with love bombing. Love bombing is just this absolutely intense display of affection and attention that somebody gives somebody to lure them in. It's very alluring, it's addicting, it's basically a drug in the form of a human interaction. Most people who are love bombing, or most people who are being love bombed have never received this level of affection from anybody else, and it is so addicting to be yearned for and desired. And keep in mind, most of the people who are being targeted by manipulative people are young, insecure, shy, come from broken homes. So keep in mind, this isn't even necessarily somebody who's used to being given normal affection, being given affection times 10. This can be somebody who is abused already or insecure, being given affection times 1,000 what they're used to receiving. And this behavior is insufficient in maintaining a normal relationship. You can't give someone this much attention and affection every single day. It fades. And usually when it fades, it gets pretty bad. Another thing we want to talk about, mirroring. Meant to be, made for me. Victims of abuse often recall the early days of their relationship where it seemed like the person they were talking to, their abuser, was perfect for them, right? Everything they liked, the abuser liked. The abuser even had some of their same tendencies, interests, political beliefs, romantic desires for the future. And it made them feel more confident in expressing who they were at the time, or more comfortable with expressing who they were at the time. This is mirroring. Mirroring is basically making a person fall in love with themselves. When somebody is mirroring, they are making somebody fall in love with a person who does not exist. They are putting on sort of a facade where they take your interests into account and inventory, even some of your smaller traits that you never even noticed in yourself. And this makes it harder to break up with them because it really feels like you have lost something you will never find again. Not only somebody who gives you undying love and affection, but somebody who seems like they are made for you and acts perfect in your eyes, at least for a little while. Now, we're going to talk about how you go from that to somebody becoming abusive, hitting you, throwing you around the house, not letting you drive your car. This is The Boiling Frog, Chapter 2. Now let's talk about where the control starts, taking you under their wing. This can be the early stages of displaying controlling tendencies. Like, kind of think about, well, as far as red flags go, this one is definitely a little more covert, and I wouldn't necessarily take this alone as a warning sign. Only this, to an extreme degree, with conjunction with another thing or two, and if this is a problem to you, you assert that to your partner, and they should reduce their attitude. They should calm down with the taking you under their wing. They should be a little less condescending and controlling, and if they don't respond appropriately to that, they're being a shithead. Anyways, this is the early stages of control. It's basically, there's a very big difference between somebody good-naturedly taking you under their wing and taking care of you, and somebody basically asserting that they don't think you can do things for yourself and taking on even your most basic tasks for you. This effectively makes you lose confidence in yourself, lose a sense of routine, and it makes you become catatonic and unconfident. And as time goes on, this persists, and it just goes from being like, no, let me do that, to being a lot more mean-spirited and focusing on the victim's perceived incompetence. This one, while small at first, definitely has a very prominent impact. Oh, here's a good one. I know you won't hurt me. This statement is another one that happens at the beginning, and this puts a lot of pressure on the victim, who again often doesn't have any self-esteem and is more inclined to think with very little persuasion that they've screwed up. Basically, this statement is typically made in the beginning of the relationship, or whenever the abuser or manipulator is vilifying their past partners or exes, and they'll basically go on and on about all the ways their exes hurt them. You'll usually find later on, as the relationship progresses, that you can see the ways in which the stories they've told are embellished and twisted, and you can almost tell exactly what happened. This is a manipulation tactic that banks in almost completely on the victim feeling the need to be special, and the fear of losing love bombing, and the fear of being a terrible person. When an abuser says, I know you won't hurt me, they're basically trying to put this pressure on you that you are perfect to them, and that they know that you won't hurt them, and they are giving you this duty to be perfect to them, not to hurt them. And as an often unconfident person, you don't feel that you can fulfill that, so you try your damn hardest, and you arm yourself with the knowledge that, okay, I can't do this, I need to make sure not to do this, this person has been hurt. And it's a lot of pressure, and it can be remarkably distressing. Here's one. Just a few misplayed notes. This is simply, just a rephrasing of the term red flags, but I feel that it's kind of a better descriptor of the nature of these warning signs. Typically, these misplayed notes are behaviors or things said by the abuser that make the victim uncomfortable, or that the abuse victim has personal moral disagreement with. This is easy to turn a blind eye to in the honeymoon relationship at all. It's easy to ignore people's flaws in a normal relationship with these misplayed notes. But with an abusive relationship where you have been love-bombed and manipulated, made to feel special, made to believe that this person is valuable and unlike any other person you will find in your life, it can be impossible to see. It can be impossible to regard as an issue. You don't want to regard this as an issue. But as the love bombing fades as the honeymoon phase fades, and as the abuser cares less about keeping you and starts to disregard you, you start to find that these misplayed notes are prominent aspects of the abuser's personality. Dear abusevictim@gmail.com, your love bombing free trial is ended. As I said before, love bombing is very temporary. Like any free trial, it has a limited duration. But unlike, an online free trial, which is stupid to compare this to, the duration, like, when it runs out, when the honeymoon phase or the love bombing phase fades, it's kind of hard to pinpoint exactly when it stops. If it ended abruptly, which it can if the abuser has put you in a position where you can't move out of their home, or they have power over you to the point where it would be harder to leave, in those instances it can be abrupt. But in other instances in which they don't have that power over you, if it just immediately went away and they turned into an asshole, you'd be more inclined to leave. You'd be shocked out of it. But it sort of very slowly transitions from, like, basically this human worship to a callous indifference about your feelings. And, as this fades, because love bombing was such a drug, you're willing to stick this out to get that again. Even if, what are there, 168 hours in a week? I think I've made this analogy before. That's how I know. I'm not some savant with numbers. Even if you get like 4 hours out of a week where they're willing to love bomb you, and the rest of that week, the rest of that 168 hours for these 4, they are willing to treat you like shit, an abuse victim, again, especially one who is insecure, hasn't had much success with love in the past, thinks very lowly of themselves, they'll stick that out just in absolute desperation and in hope that they will get that feeling again. It's a drug. Love bombing's a drug, and it's really hard to shake the need for. Confounding words of relationship wisdom. You're too damaged to know how love works. You little shit. You were nothing before I came along and rescued you. This manipulative tactic is how abusers justify breaking the victim's boundaries. Again, this is kind of where them specifically targeting insecure people comes into play. While often unconfident or easily manipulated, the target of an abuser might actually assert a boundary. Like not wanting to go on birth control as opposed to condoms. There might be that instance or two where an abuse victim can be like, I don't know, I don't really feel comfortable doing that. And when faced with not getting their way, the abuser will not only make this personal by saying something to the tune of, well, if you don't trust me, or if you don't love me, they'll also kind of try to make it seem like whatever they are trying to do is a normal part of a relationship, and the victim is being weak, weird, or something else. They'll even try to exploit your past hardships and say, well, just because, you're damaged, so you don't understand this is normal. It's normal for people to let their boyfriends hit them in the bedroom whenever they want. You not being okay with that is just a sign of you being damaged. This one makes me so mad. A game of the floor is you being just like my exes. This is, of course, just a play off of a game of the floor is hot lava, but instead of scrambling for a piece of furniture to get off the floor because the floor is lava, you're basically desperately scrambling away from the idea that you are a terrible person because your abusive partner is... Let me start over. Okay, so basically, you're abusive partner, remember, in the beginning of the relationship, they put a lot of pressure on you not to fail them because apparently you're perfect, and they told you all the ways their exes hurt them. So if you're insecure and you are already emotionally hurt, this is going to scare the shit out of you. You are desperately scrambling away from these claims, trying to be like, no, 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 I'm not like that. I'll let you do this. It's fine, it's fine, it's fine. And you are willing to disregard your own well-being for the sake of not upsetting this person or hurting them. Not only because you don't want to lose them, you don't want to be a bad person. And you are scared that this person's say-so is the end-all be-all. That you are a bad person just because they say so. And it's really... This one is bad. This one is very, very important to look out for. First of all, if I had to give, like, sort of a combination of 3 main traits that manifest themselves in the beginning that you should be terrified of, they are these 3 in conjunction. The person complaining about their exes nonstop and how they hurt them, that is victimizing themselves. Them putting this weight on you of, I know you will not hurt me, and this one right here. You leave. I don't care how great they are. These 3 traits will not go away. You leave, okay? Because this is them trying to break your boundaries. This is them, and this isn't just something they'll do in response to you actually doing something bad. Like, I don't know, smoking weed in their room after you agreed that no one would smoke weed in the house. This is something they'll do in response to you complaining about something that they do. If they are 4 hours late to something that they promised they'd be on time for, if they are being rude to you, if they are, like, you know, turning your date with them into them just inviting their friends and them ignoring you, and you say, I really didn't like that. They pull this card, they're manipulating you. That's not you being a dick, okay? Listen to me. That is not you being a dick. That is not you being crazy. That is them manipulating you. Okay? Here's another one. Abuse victim updated their status. Became an abusive, delusional, manipulative, petty, toxic bully towards abuser 20 minutes ago. Just a stupid Facebook status thing. This would be so much easier if my camera didn't mirror it. So, this is projection. This is just projection. Basically, when you make your complaints about the abuser to them, they'll turn it around on you. They'll say, like, for example, they'll say you bringing your complaints to them about them is abusive and manipulative and that you're just trying to hurt them. They'll call you a bully. And they'll make all these claims about you, and in conjunction with these other things that I've already said, this can terrify the shit out of somebody who is insecure by nature. They don't want to be this person, and instead of having the energy to put their thought into this person is not respecting my wishes and I am really unhappy, they put their energy, all of their emotional energy, into fulfilling this really monotonous need to prove to this person who already knows they're not a bad person that they are not bad. And and that is a huge source of distraction from you asserting and getting what you want. That's how they get you. Not only have they gotten you to forget that you're mad at them, they've gotten you to forget whatever the hell you were mad at them for. Not only that, they've normalized the thing that you're mad at them for and minimized it as something that's not a big deal. This is where it gets worse. Let freedom fade. See, these were so stupid when I made them. Basically, your freedom slowly starts to go. It can start with, it always starts small. For example, and with something that's potentially moderately something worth being corrected about. For example, if you do street art, this is a personal example. If you do street art, obviously street art is a misdemeanor, right? You're going out at night, you're doing all this stuff, you're spray painting walls, sometimes you're jumping into washes and spray painting in the tunnels, you can get arrested, you could get beat up by someone else, you can get mugged. That's a valid reason to not want your partner to do street art. So they'll start by criticizing legitimate things, and they won't necessarily even really be on top of you about it. But keep in mind, they didn't give you a hard time about this stuff before you dated, and it didn't dissuade them from pursuing you. So, not necessarily the complaint, but the escalation of this complaint is something to keep in mind. Like, one example, when I first started getting complaints about my street art, again, I understand why someone would complain about it. It is technically vandalism, even though I'm as courteous as I can be. They'll kind of start by saying, yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of thuggy, you know what I mean? And that's like, you're just associating with all these people who, like, are just a bunch of thugs and blah, blah, blah. That was actually the one time I asserted confidence and told him not to talk shit about my friends. But that's irrelevant. Slowly, they'll take these things that are actual valid flaws, they will push them on you. They will bring it up all the time. Anytime you want to express any sort of personal freedom, not only will they say that, you do this that's trashy, they'll say, you stopped doing this because of me, and I made you a better person. I'm getting a little off track. But they'll use these things to strip you of your freedom. They will tell you who you can and cannot associate with, either based off of their rational or irrational reservations about something you may or may not do, that no matter what, do not correlate rationally with this freedom they're taking away from you. And they will continue to take. They'll start making up these lies, like you're on your phone too much, and they'll try to better you by giving you limited phone time. They'll accuse you of cheating, which they're often doing, actually, by saying you're spending too much time talking to these friends that you've had for years. Sometimes they won't let you go out at night. They coddle you. This goes in conjunction with the taking you under their wing thing I was talking about. They'll coddle you and make you feel like they know what's best for you, so that it comes off less as, I'm not letting you do this because I don't want you to, and I'm not letting you do, and it comes off more as, I'm not letting you do this because I know what is best for you. This is all manipulative bullshit. I could go on forever about that. But instead, let's start getting into why these people stay. The reason that it's kind of hard to take them seriously for some people. The reason that people kind of think abuse victims are stupid. Let's look at those things that those people are not seeing. Chapter 3, investigating the invisible change. Chains. God, I'm stupid. See, I'm insecure. You can guess how I got roped into all this. Let's look at this one. Ooh, the mask slips, the mirror cracks, they pray Prince Charming is coming back. So, like I said before, love bombing is addicting. The person that this person met at the start is addicting. They mirrored them perfectly. It could make even the most avid atheist think, wow, did God give me this person? And that's addicting. And the sad thing is, that addicting person did not exist. That was a facade. And so these victims who are currently being abused are waiting for this person who does not exist to come back. They're roughing it out because they're like, remembering, they're clinging in desperation to these memories. Like, if I let him go, I'll be letting go of the person who took me to Washington, D.C. and took me to Gallaudet University because he knows that ASL is my major and I love him, and he actually did this one thing that no one else would do for me. Specific examples may or may not have happened to me. But you pray for that person to come back in desperation, because in your mind, that person, who again does not exist, is too valuable to lose at any cost. Especially if you are insecure, especially if you are already going through a lot, especially if the loss of a person at this point in your life could break you. Those chains hold strong, man. Now we're getting into blackmail. Blackmail. What's blackmail? It's like oatmeal that's Halloween themed. The power of a vindictive confidant. This is a very, very valuable asset to any manipulator of any kind. Be it a professional business person that you're doing business with who managed to get some information out of you, a friend, anything like that. The power of a vindictive confidant is a power, like, beyond what Jesus Christ had when he turned fucking water into wine. Basically, you might notice, in retrospect, when somebody's used your secrets against you, they got you to tell them a lot of stuff about you, but they never really told you a lot of stuff that you could potentially use against them. Of course, this isn't something that a normal, good person is going to think about in the moment, right? Because you're not a fucked up jackass. But when somebody who is a vindictive confidant is going to try to keep you roped in and keep your mouth shut, they'll take every single secret that you, somebody who's already being weighed down on by these secrets and is insecure and trusts them and needs someone to finally let it all out to, they take advantage of that, keep inventory of all your secrets, and they make sure that you know that if you piss them off, they have the power to let all the skeletons out of your closet. And that is why I advise you to make sure that the only person you tell any potentially socially incriminating secrets to is a good therapist. Make sure that if you tell them to a therapist, they're not criminal, because you can get in trouble for that. Anyways, let's move on. I do give a damn about my reputation. Abusers are absolutely phenomenal at turning their victims into social pariahs when they get pissed off at them. Sort of like, if I can't have you, no one can. If I can't have you, I'm gonna break you. If I can't have you, no one will want you. And they'll spread lies about you, sometimes use secrets that you told them. Again, the vindictive confidant. This person could potentially have a lot of really close connections. This person could have had connections with people who were gonna really help you and utilize that, and then he's gonna sully your good name to these people that you met through them, and of course they're gonna trust the person that you met them through, unless they know the bullshit that your abuser is up to, but usually abusers are pretty good at hiding that. Let's move on. Surprise! You owe me! So, basically, in the beginning of a relationship, especially if an abuser is helping you get out of an abusive home, or a home that you don't want to live in, a broken home, they'll let you live with them, they'll buy you clothes, they'll buy you food, they'll cover rent. They will assert that, they'll insist, no, I'm gonna cover this. I'm gonna take care of you. They'll buy you all this new stuff, a phone, maybe a car, if they can afford it. This happens sometimes. A phone, a car, let you live with them rent-free and convince you to sell your apartment. Anytime you try to leave, they will say, well, then you owe me for staying at my house all those months that I let you live here rent-free. You owe me for that phone. Give me the fucking phone. You owe me for that car. you know what? The car is in my name, so not only am I keeping it, you're paying it, like, for it. So they'll use things that they've bought for you against you. A normal person, listen to me, okay? A normal person doesn't do that. Normal people don't go fishing into the past like that, okay? If somebody did something to you out of the kindness of their heart and insisted they do so, that is what we call an unconditional gift, okay? Now, it's normal to say when you've been good to someone and they've actually been bad to you, I did all this for them and they still did this to me. It is not normal for you to assert boundaries and for you to want to leave, and then for them to basically pull up receipts of all the stuff they've done for you and bought for you and been like, you owe me for this. Even when people do genuinely get fucked over, their thing isn't you owe me for this. Their thing is I did all this for you. And therein lies a huge problem, because guilt manifests itself very heavily in insecure people. The income conundrum. So, again, this ties in with the valuable assets, them taking you under their wing, them helping you beyond what would be considered normal for someone who you just started dating. You know, them letting you live with them buying you a phone, them buying you a car. Oftentimes they'll tell you, don't worry about working, I'll work, you just be the homemaker and we'll have our happy little family. They will put you in a place where you cannot support yourself, and usually when they come across you in the first place and target yourself, you were already struggling to support yourself. Like, for example, if you leave them, you might have no place to go because they've had you living there rent-free with no job, and they convinced you to sell your apartment or something. Sometimes it's because they bought you a car, and you sold your old one, and the car is in their name, so it's not yours. The phone, not in your name, not yours. You haven't been working. Income is a huge part of why people stay. Not being able to support themselves financially and feeling the need to survive throughout. This is survival. That is what this is. This is survival. This is somebody being terrified of living on the streets. Great. Here we go. Hindsight is 2020. But love bombing and self-doubting are glaucoma. Very important. Now, it's easy to look back at something and be like, why was I so stupid about this? And, you know, but even for someone who was in an abusive relationship, coming to that conclusion and realizing you were abused can take years. See, love bombing and self-doubt, gaslighting, if this person gaslit you, it's hard to really be able to look back when you're insecure and you've been manipulated and not see yourself as being in the wrong. That's, again, that's one of the reasons that people tend to go back. That's one of the reasons people are too scared to leave, because they're scared they're being crazy. You know, that's something. Abusers love to fucking say that. Abusers love to be like, you're crazy, you're overbearing, you shouldn't be having these requirements of me, and that's all bullshit. Okay? Expecting someone to be there on time, and they're 5 hours late to the airport or whatever, I'm putting this together in my mind, to the airport when you were supposed to go to Hawaii, and it turns out later they didn't even have tickets to Hawaii and they were late on purpose. That's not an unjustifiable reason to be upset at somebody. That is not you being crazy. You wanting to be able to use your phone whenever you want is not crazy. You wanting somebody to stop doing something, like maybe an unfavorable habit, maybe they can argue with you about that, but you're not fucking crazy. Alright. self-devaluation induced catatonia. Basically, this one is when you devalue yourself through, the abuser devaluing you. Kind of like something that happened with the Scientologists when they were all locked in that storage unit. And not L. Ron Hubbard, his successor, David Miscavige, smacked one of the people in the face, and they were so shocked and taken aback, they thought that there's no way he would just do that without me clearly doing something to deserve that. Same fucking thing. And especially since the abuser instilled in you that they know better than you what is best for you by taking you under their wing, and clearly somebody who just gave you so much love in the beginning would only want what was best for you. You're gonna believe them. You're gonna believe anything they say. All the gaslighting is gonna make you lose your sense of self. You're gonna be so devalued in your own mind. They could tell you up as down and you'd be like, yeah, it is. I don't know if it is or not. I'm so mentally lost. And that's where the catatonia comes in. You don't even try to use intuition anymore, because you just know that whatever you say, unless they say it for you, is going to be wrong. So essentially it's you giving up on being a person. Then, of course, there's the visceral fear of loneliness. A lot of people who get roped into these relationships already don't have a lot of connections. They probably haven't had a lot of love in their life from family, friends, so on, so forth. This could be the first relationship they've ever had, and this is going to sound like a weird thing to throw in there, but this one is especially effective if the abuser took the abuse victim's virginity. That's usually why abusers go for younger girls, because they want to have that power over them. They want to have that bond with them, even though taking virginity doesn't fucking matter. But the visceral fear of loneliness also comes because if an abuse victim was well connected with their family, they aren't anymore by the time this comes along. The abuse victim was isolated from their family, and they were made to feel like they have no one else but the abuser. And the thing is, the abuse victim is already completely alone, because they feel alone with this abuser. They don't think they do, but by already not having their family, and by not being with somebody who is emotionally fulfilling to them, this abuser makes them feel completely alone. This is loneliness that they are currently feeling, but in their heads, they're kind of like, if this is not what being alone is, I can't imagine what actually being alone is like. It's really sad. Good old-fashioned matrimony. This is a problem. See, this happens a lot with young girls, especially ones who think they're never gonna find someone who will ever love them or marry them. What better way to cement the fact that you've found somebody who loves you enough to spend the rest of their life with you? Matrimony. Being married. A lot of young girls get roped into this. The abuser will immediately jump into wanting to marry them, especially since they're so special with the love bombing. The love bombing is a fucking sales pitch. That's what it is. Because, this young girl's gonna be like, oh, this person values me so much. I want to be surrounded by this for the rest of my life. Then they get married. Divorce is expensive. And usually, the abuse victim doesn't have a lot of money, if any at all. All these factors kind of, are a testament to the fact that the person in this situation usually doesn't have much to call their own. And usually an abuser, unlike a normal person, Oh god, even normal people can be insanely vindictive in divorce court. Imagine how vindictive an abuse victim or an abuser can be. An abuser can try to drain you for what little you do have, absolutely destroy your reputation, get a lawyer, make sure you can't afford a lawyer. They'll scare you with this one. They'll scare you and tell you that you can never divorce them. You're stuck together forever. And I think this one will be our last one for today. First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes an 18+ year binding contract. Kids. Of course I'm talking about kids right now. A lot of abuse victims, since they already lack the self-esteem to see that how they're being treated is wrong, even if they do see how they're being treated is wrong, they don't want to have a child who comes from a broken home. As if being a child of divorced parents even remotely constitutes being in a broken home by comparison to being in a home where your mother's being choked out or your parents are constantly screaming at each other. Okay, so not only is there the abuse victim just wanting to have a family that looks good from the outside, you know, the parents together, not only do they think that, you know, having two parents in the household will be fundamentally better for the child, as opposed to the crazy shit they're going through now. Like, divorce isn't bad by comparison. I'm a I'm a child of divorced kids. Trust me. I'd rather my parents get divorced than stay together. If they were together, I'd be dead right now. And also, the child custody battle being an absolute nightmare. Because even when the abuse victim tries to glorify, hide the unsavory actions of and cover up for the abuser, they still look at this person sometimes and put them on a pedestal. But they still kind of have this underlying fear. They'll always have the underlying fear. Sometimes it's a very prominent fear. Plenty of abuse victims are willing to say, I'm scared of my husband, or I'm scared of my boyfriend. You have no idea, if you don't know, how vindictive and with the absolute ferocity of a fucking flamethrower, how nasty abusers can be in a custody battle. Abusers can take kids out of spite. Usually the abuser doesn't even care about the kids enough to want them full time. Usually the kids end up being abused, actually. It's hell. Okay, the abuser just wants to take your kids away from you out of spite. They'll try to do that in a custody battle. Alright, that concludes all of my points that I've put on the flashcards, but I have a little something. Oh, these are a mess all over my bed. Why did I not arrange these? I've already given my points, but I want to say something more. If you're currently a victim of abuse, if any of these things ring true, it's not the end. You're not stuck where you are, whether you have a kid, whether you don't have kids, whether you have a job, whether you don't have a job. You need to find the people who can help you out of this if you can't get out of it yourself. If you can get out of it yourself, if you're in a position where you're not reliant on your abuser, thank God. Get out of there, please. This can turn into something. You can die. They can kill you. This can turn into something that you will feel like you'll never be able to get out of. If you're currently married, if you're currently estranged from your family and feel like you're stuck with the abuser, please look through your resources. There's plenty of abuse victim websites. Reach out to your family. Please reach out to your family. Even if he or she doesn't want you to, or he or she told you that your family doesn't love you, if your family is a good family, and I don't mean like if they're a good family by his standards. I mean if they're a good family by yours. They will help you get out of this. Alright, stay safe during quarantine. Avoid abusive and manipulative patterns in relationships. Stay strong. And if you like this video, like it, subscribe if you want more content. I don't know if I'm ever going to make another video, but if I do, I'll make the next one better. I'll actually edit, cut things, make more videos about manipulative people and avoiding manipulative situations. Bye guys.